Yo, what's going on, guys? Hopefully you guys had an amazing weekend. I know obviously this is Monday, but happy Monday, and hopefully everything's going well with y'all. Especially to the people that are the gamblers, the fantasy football picks. Man, what a crazy punt return on overtime with the Jets. Look, man, I don't know about that Madden curse. I know it's a real thing, but Josh Allen has got to learn not to play hero ball every single time, man. It's pretty disgraceful, and he's letting that team down because that team is Super Bowl worthy. They got the receivers, they got the running game, they got the defense, and Josh Allen just has to put it together. He's got to play better, and sometimes playing better doesn't mean you have to play amazing every single time and look for the 50-yard bomb, the 20-yard plus throws. It's sometimes just a simple chuck down, getting a lot of momentum. Sometimes it's just moving the chains, killing the clock, and letting your defense shine. At games that are just hard-nosed fought, you got to be able to play torture-type football where every possession counts and you can't be that loose with that ball. I know that he's a gunslinger. I know that's what makes him a fan favorite. I know that's where, imagine being 6'5", 260 plus, athletic with a strong ass arm, and you're told not to use your tangibles, just play it safe and slide. I know he wants that contact. I know he wants to go aerial, but he's got to be better and much more disciplined in that aspect. Because if not, man, he's gonna make a lot of people disgruntled, let alone that fan base, let alone his receivers and his defense. And he eventually, at one point, they're gonna stop falling in love with him, and they're gonna go a different way. So Josh Allen has to play better. He's got to put it together because that safety or that corner, Whiteside or Whitehead, that got 3 picks off of him, he's not Ed Reed, right? So you can't make some of those ill-advised throws that Josh Allen was chucking the ball down, man. He's really letting that Buffalo Bills team down, and he's just got to play better. It's just simple. And sometimes playing better is just a 3-yard, little shovel pass or a 5-yard little slant to your tight end, whatever the case may be. It's just got to be better, bro. It's unacceptable. As for Aaron Rodgers, look, man, I don't even think he really has a severe ankle injury. And the reason why I say that is because he realized that speed of that Buffalo Bills defense. He's like, you know what? If I play this game, this is one of those physical games that is going to basically take everything that I have out of me. So I better just fake the funk because I'm 40 years old and these boys are going to come from my head and be nasty, be gritty. And I don't want that smoke tonight. That's the way I look at it. Now, Tank Davis. We all know Tank Davis is an amazing talent. He's a great boxer, right? And everybody that sparred him, they love his skills. And everybody that knows boxing knows that Tank is a pound-for-pound fighter, right? Everyone that sparred him, Tank has probably dropped or landed that punch. So if that headgear was off, he probably knocks everybody out. Tank Davis is that dude. We know this, right? But his resume isn't, it paints a completely different picture, right? Now, I like Tank Davis a lot. I love supporting him in the pay-per-views. I like the matchups that he fights up against. Fighters like Leo Santa Cruz, Hector Luis Garcia, Mario Barrios, all these fighters are talented, right? There's no doubt about it. These guys that Tank Davis is beating, all pretty much damn near all undefeated fighters. It's not an easy task to be an undefeated person, right? Because everything that they've been doing up to that point before meeting Tank Davis, all they know is win. All I know is win, 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 no matter what. That's when you have that element to your game. When you're undefeated, you never tasted defeat. And for Tank to knock these guys' spirit out of them and make them take a knee, right? Like he did Barrios, like he did Ryan Garcia, like he slept Leo Santa Cruz, like he made Hector Luis Garcia quit on the stool, like how he beat Pedraza. All these guys are amazing fighters, and Tank's beating these guys. So his resume, I love Tank Davis's resume. But again, when we compare him to his contemporaries, his colleagues in the boxing sphere, right? Teofimo Lopez has outdone him. Teo did beat Lomachenko, who Floyd Mayweather kept Tank Davis away from. Loma was on Tank Davis's ass. Loma respected Tank Davis's skill, but they kept him away from him. And they played the long con, the long game. Wait till he gets old, right? I wouldn't be surprised if Tank never fights Lomachenko, and I wouldn't be surprised if Tank waits another year or two to fight Lomachenko. You see what I'm saying? And it's kind of like the same thing with Anthony Joshua and Eddie Hearn not fighting Deontay Wilder, right? Because they could have fought him 5 years ago when they both were undefeated and they could have been undisputed, right? And even right now, they still don't want the smoke. They'll say it to it on camera. Oh, yeah, we want Wilder next, and then we'll go fight Fury. But Joshua could have been had those fights. Same thing with Tank Davis. He could have been had the Teofimo fight and the Lomachenko fight, Shakur Devin, all these amazing fights. So what I'm saying is Tank is that dude, but his resume doesn't follow suit to how great everybody speaks of him, right? Like, for instance, maybe Tank Davis beats Josh Taylor, but instead of beating the undisputed fighter, Josh Taylor, he decided to fight Mario Barrios, who was already thinking about moving up to 147, right? He could have fought Devin Haney. Hell, at one point, he said he wanted to fight George Kambosos, but he goes, I don't care about them belts. After Kambosos beat Teofimo Lopez. But guess what? He let Devin Haney beat Kambosos. And I'm pretty sure Tank knocks out Kambosos. You see what I'm saying? And he could have fought Devin Haney. So there's a whole lot of questions and wonders, I guess, of why Tank Davis doesn't take these fights. I'm not saying Tank Davis is afraid. Nah, man. Quite the opposite, you know. But whoever is advising him, right? It's kind of like, I know it's Floyd Mayweather advising him. And if you look at every single thing that Floyd does, from the outfits that they choose on fight night, Tank Davis mirrors Floyd Mayweather. He looks up to him, all right? Even though they part ways and he wants to become his own man, basically wants to be Floyd. And one of the things that Floyd rarely did was he rarely fought black fighters. And Tank Davis rarely fights black fighters. You see what I'm saying? Like, for instance, when Floyd Mayweather fought Zab Judah, that was a very good fight. Both fighters were in their prime. The speed, Zab dropped Floyd. Floyd's glove touched the canvas. But after all that thing that happened in that one round, Floyd should have been disqualified, bro. And that should have been Floyd Mayweather's first loss. What happened when he fought Shane Mosley? He got hit with some good-ass shots. You know what I'm saying? So there's a reason why Floyd didn't fight certain fighters. What would have happened had Floyd fought like a Sean Porter? Right? Or even a Kell Brook. Or even an Erislandy Lara. I don't know what happens in those fights. There's some good fucking fights. Right? Same thing with Tank Davis. I wonder why Tank Davis don't fight black fighters. He didn't fight Gary Russell Jr., right, when they were both at 126 and champions at that weight class. At 130, I'm not too sure when he was a champion. I think that's when he beat Pedraza. I don't really remember all the recollection in terms of the order of operations. What's going on, Vince? I wonder why he doesn't fight any black fighters. I don't know, man. I feel like one of the reasons Tank and Floyd don't really like fighting black fighters is because black fighters like to do tactical retreats. They like and are good at fighting off the back foot. You see, Tank, if you look at all these fighters that he's fought, all these fighters, and especially the ones that he gets knockouts with, they either stay flat-footed or they come to him. Mario Barrios came to him. Ryan Garcia, like Mario Barrios, came to him when it's like, bro, use your height, use your jab, use your fucking footwork like how Karen did versus Boots. Use those tangibles and that God-given genetic aspect of you and let the short man walk you down. But they don't. They gave up that height. And fighters like Devin, fighters like Shakur, Lomachenko, they do tactical retreats, right? They do pot shot. And I know, I'm not saying Tank ain't going to land his shots. No, Tank will land his shots, right? But how many fights have you ever seen Tank Davis really cut off the ring on fighters? We've never seen that element of him cutting off the ring. When he did, he was struggling against Gamboa. You see? And that was a 40-year-old Gamboa with a torn Achilles. Now imagine with a prime Shakur, Devin, Lomachenko, the ones that actually are well-rounded and fighting off the back foot. Tank will show his limitations. Now, mind you, Tank might get the knockout still, but I'm saying that's the reason why Floyd didn't fight that. Imagine Floyd trying to cut off the ring. When he tried to cut off the ring against Manny Pacquiao, he looked like shit. So imagine Floyd chasing Erislandy Lara around. Good fucking luck. Floyd ain't gonna look that good, especially the other side of Floyd. The younger side of Floyd, Pretty Boy, yeah, because he lunged in and used a lot of his athleticism to, cut off the distance, right? But that's one of the reasons why Tank don't fight those guys, because those are tricky styles, right? They might even be boring styles, or tactically, because Devin and Shakur, it would be stupid of them to try to go toe-to-toe and try to knock out Tank Davis and give him that shot of and increasing the higher probability of landing that left hook or that right hook or that left straight or a left uppercut to the body or to the chin, anything, right? So you already know their game plan. They're going to use their height and circle around and then hug, and that's going to frustrate Tank. But here's the thing. Is Tank going to lose his cool for, the 48 minutes of the fight? I don't know. But it would be much how Shakur fought against Oscar Valdez, how Devin fought against George Kambosos. It would be in that type of mannerism. Now, here's the thing. So that's one of the reasons why Tank, in my opinion, don't want to fight those fighters. So because I know this aspect and he's following the footsteps of Floyd, and he refuses to take these fights that a lot of people are calling for to take, I can't put him up there, because if you look at the pound for pound status, while Tank Davis is a 3-time divisional champ, he should only be a 1 divisional champ who went up in higher divisions and fought top contenders. You see what I'm saying? Because Devin was undisputed. How can Tank be a 135 champion if Devin is undisputed? How can Tank be a champion at 140 when Josh Taylor is undisputed? So you can't really call Tank Davis a multi-divisional champion, because a WBA regular belt, interim belt, that means nothing. That's his equivalent is as if Tank were to fight for the IBO belt. Is that a valid belt? Absolutely not. So Tank is not a pound for pound fighter, because not by definition, right? But by resume, right? Those guys aren't the champions. So Tank can be called the 3-time divisional champion. The Pedraza victory, amazing. Pedraza is an amazing fighter. Look at when he's moved up to 140. He's been giving everybody tough fights. Gave Loma a good fight. Gave Jose Ramirez a tough fight. Arnold Barbosa. That's a great victory for Tank. I can't speak highly too much about what's his name, Leo Santa Cruz, because he retired. Can't say much about Mario Barrios because he didn't look that good against Keith Thurman at 147. He took his best punches, but he came out looking like an avatar. Is there anyone out there that can beat Tank? I don't know. I don't know if Shakur, Devin Lomachenko, or Teofimo Lopez could beat Tank, or Josh Taylor. I don't know. Maybe all 4 of them can beat Tank, or maybe Tank beats them all. But until I don't want to speculate, because there's many ways, right? Tank will always have a puncher's chance. But the guys that he's fighting, right? Rolly Romero, come forward. Ryan Garcia, come forward. Mario Barrios, come forward. Leo Santa Cruz, come forward. Hector Luis Garcia, come forward. All these fighters fit into the counterpunching ability of Tank. I need to see Tank fight one of these guys that know how to do tactical retreats and fight off the back foot, use their legs, set up traps, are comfortable with winning a round by 1 or 2 punches. I need to see those guys versus Tank, because that's going to be a style that Tank gets flustered. You see what I'm saying? So is there people that can beat Tank? Maybe a lot of people beat Tank. Maybe none of them beat Tank. That's how good Tank is. I respect his skills like most of everybody. And if you don't respect his skills, then you're not really. Now then, I don't think you're judging him correctly. You know what I'm saying? Tank Davis is amazing. I don't have to tell you guys that he's amazing. Like, he's just an amazing talent. Great speed. He's very intelligent in the ring. He knows how to fight. He's got a great high guard. He's very athletic, super fast, amazing timing, very good defense. But again, he's fighting guys that aren't as talented, right? Like Ryan Garcia is super talented in terms of hand speed, and that's just about it. In terms of setting up traps and IQ and being disciplined, no, man. Ryan Garcia is one of those guys that were that amazing quote goes like, talent gets beat, when talent don't work hard. That's Ryan Garcia. Or what was it saying? Like, hard work beats talent when talent don't work hard. That's Ryan Garcia. He fits that mold, that adage. But yeah, man. No, look, that's just the way I perceive things. I could be wrong. But maybe Tank Davis does beat Teofimo Lopez. But Teofimo Lopez is amazing. Like, I would never see Tank Davis ever fight a Sander Martin. I can't see it. At the age of 30 years old, I can't see him taking ever a Sander Martin type of fight. Nowhere has he ever had a fight like Sander Martin, right? Whereas Teofimo Lopez will take that. Will take a Lomachenko at the age of 22, 23. Will take a Josh Taylor when his mindset is not right, when he's, being in an act of divorce and all these things. Teofimo been going through the same shit that Jamal be going through. So you mean to tell me a younger cat and Teofimo is more mentally stronger than Jamal? The same shit Jamal going through, Teofimo was going through. And guess what? He didn't have to keep a belt hostage for 2 years. Now you can be like, look, man, not everybody gotta be cold. Well, aren't these dudes lions? Aren't these dudes lions? You see what I'm saying? So again, if Tank is all this, how come you don't got the same bodies that all these other fighters or the fighters that I just mentioned? You see what I'm saying? So you can't, all these 4 fighters, you got to put them above Tank Davis. Just based off resume and just based off boxing conduct. Like, for instance, I can probably name 12 fighters off the top that are better or more deserving than Tank to be in the top 10 pound for pound, right? You can go Bud Crawford, Usyk, Canelo, that's 3. Jermell Charlo, that's 4. Teofimo, 5. I'm not in any particular order, but I'm just naming off names. No, Oya Inoue at 6. Devin at 7. Shakur at 8. Navarrete at 9. You can add Gallito Estrada or Chocolatito, 10 or 11 respectively. Maybe Bam Bam Rodriguez. Let me see who else that you can put in there. You can still add Lomachenko above Tank Davis. Yeah, sure, Lomachenko lost to Devin Haney. Yeah, sure, he lost to Teofimo, but fucking all those fights were very close and competitive. You see what I'm saying? You probably still can add Errol Spence just because he got his ass beat by Bud Crawford. I mean, we're talking about one of the faces of boxing, the pillars of the consummate pro, Bud Crawford. You see what I'm saying? That was 13, 14 names, and then you can add Tank Davis. And if I'm being generous, bro, probably Brian Castano above Tank Davis. Look who Brian Castano has fought. Tricky ass tactical retreaters like that Brazilian Patrick Teixeira, right? Jermell Charlo twice. And the list goes on. Let me see. You can even add Demetrius Andre, champion at 154, champion at 160, legit champs. And then you can maybe, if he beats Benavidez, bro, he'd be doing it at 168. And then Tank Davis. You see what I'm saying? Like, when you start breaking everything down, you can still add Josh Taylor. Just because Josh Taylor got beat by Teofimo, bro, you're looking at a 2-time lineal ring undisputed fighter in Teo. Because we can't never neglect the amazing run that Josh Taylor had, beating Jose Ramirez, Regis Prograis, Ivan Baranchenko, Ryan Martin. You add O'Hara Davis, you add 5 of those fighters, it's 160 wins to like 1 loss. And then Tank Davis. So all these fighters are doing what Tank Davis is doing, but without the payday and recognition, right? Because they can't they still can pick and choose, their fights. But Tank has tapped into a market. Look, like I said, look, bro, Tank is an amazing fighter. He's got a ton of charisma. He's amazing skills and amazing power, and he sleeps people. All right. A lot of people always talk about skills, but power is one of the most amazing skills, if not the best skill out of all of them. Because as you age, you lose your speed. As you age, you lose a little bit of your punch resistance. You lose that young man energy, but the power always remains. The power always stays with you. That is one of the best skills that a person can have. When a person never has power, like Paulie Malignaggi, and the speed go away, and your punch resistance goes, and your ability, right, your stamina, and when all that goes away, and you don't have power, you fucking trash. Yo, what's going on, Speed? What you doing, brother? How you been, man? How's your weekend? How's your Monday going?
Whoa, that's a whole lot of questions right there. I don't even know where to start. Um, I guess I should start by answering how my day's been. My day's been all right. We've made some progress, my son and I, working on that 1968 Chevelle truck that I gave to him for, I guess you can say, his birthday. I just gave it to him without really thinking or even realizing that it was going to be his birthday soon enough. So, as far as I'm concerned, I hooked him up real good with a classic Chevrolet truck. Well, it's really an El Camino. You really call it like
A
it's
wagon.
a lowrider racing truck.
A
That's what
wagon.
an what is it?
They're called wagons.
No, it's not a wagon. It's a truck. It's
No,
a
no,
two-door truck.
no. The Ford Rancheros and the El Caminos fall under the category of wagons.
Not too sure how. It's got a bed, and
No,
it's a two-door. Really, it's like
I don't
it's a
make the
racing truck.
I don't make the rules.
Well, anyways, I describe it as a lowrider racing truck. Uh, the very first of which, you know, uh, nowadays is pretty popular. But nonetheless, we've been making some progress. We're doing some finishing touches on the body. We primed it a couple of days ago, and when you use the type of primer that we've been using, for the most part, it accentuates any kind of imperfections. And the undulation and the contours of the vehicle, so that you can compare it with the light and then start seeing where the flaws are. And we work on the flaws. I can say right now that we're about 95% done. So tomorrow will be the last finishing the sanding, priming, and then maybe over the weekend, if the paint comes in, we'll likely be painting that baby. So as far as the day started off good, and it ended off real good. The weekend, it was fun. On Saturday, it was fun. I went to a wedding. Well, I didn't make it to the wedding, but I made it to the I don't know what you call it, but it's like the party. And that thing was fun. I don't drink, so it's hard for me to like really just get all stupid and crunk with it. But I found a little place there in my old bones to get jiggy with it. So that was pretty fun. And Sunday, well, just a little bit of working on all the cars and everything, and missing all the football action because I got a couple of things more important to do than to sit down on my day and just watch. Football. But it's been good, and I like the topic at hand, the homie Ricky. That topic of addressing what about Tank Davis. And you see, I believe I may have proposed to you that we address the issue of Tank Davis a couple of days or maybe even a week or so ago when I was listening to one of Fernando Vargas's sons, which I believe one of our listeners, dedicated listeners, Mr. Vince Vargas, and good day to you, Mr. Vargas. He's a big fan of the Vargas dynasty. He was being interviewed in the show called The Boxing Boys, and it had two of the brothers. It was not Emiliano, it was Amado, and I forget the other.
There's
The
Fernando Vargas Jr., Amado, and then Emiliano.
Fernando and Amado. And Amado, if I'm not mistaken, he's the taller kid with the curly hair. And Amado had some sparring with Tank Davis. And he described how basically he had Tank Davis on the back foot the whole time. He was letting them tee off on him, it seems. In hindsight, he said it looked like he was just letting me go hard on him, like take your best shot. And he was giving him everything, and Tank Davis was receiving everything and taking it well. And then Tank Davis decided to act. He took one of the few shots in that whole sparring session, landed it right to the body, and Amado had to take a knee. Now, if you listen to a lot of the people that have sparred Tank Davis, everybody that spars Tank Davis, they'll talk about his how tough he is, how advantageous he is, his ring savvy, his power, his speed. Everybody commends him on his skill set, and he seems to be a fighter's fighter. Everybody wants to get that Tank Davis sparring session because if you go with Tank Davis, he's going to show you things. He's going to show you things that you've never worked on. He's going to exploit your flaws, and you're going to learn from that. So when you hear those kind of things, and then you see the kind of maneuvers that Tank Davis has been doing in the sport, which is basically, I would almost call it ducking all the big names at all these weight classes from 130, 135, and 140. You just have to ask and wonder why. Why is Tank Davis choosing to not go for greatness? Why is Tank Davis ignoring what the fans want? Why is Tank Davis content with one day leaving the sport without having made a mark as one of the greatest of this current era? Because it seems to me and to a lot of fighters involved that he has all the goods to become the best 135 pounder at this time, maybe even 140 pounder, maybe even 130 pounder. But somehow he just is a fringe contender, a guy that's happy and content just fighting outside while everybody's taking the action, and it works for him. And it's just very perplexing. It's a confounding question, the matter of Tank Davis. And I can just say that I am not a fan of it because he's not providing me the fights that I want to see. And but as far as the eye test, he looks to be the goods.
Yeah, well, yeah, I know, I agree. I don't know why, but I will say this. Time is on his side. So for instance, I believe Tank will fight Shakur, Devin Haney, and Teofimo Lopez. All in, I guess you can say, all in due time, right? It's just, and here's the thing: he will fight those fights one day, but when he wants. You see, one of the things that I know about Tank and that I've hear him talk about, he's very interested in taking those fights
Mhm.
because in interviews, when people bring up like, you've done a lot of things, you made a lot of money in boxing. What are a couple of things that you want to do, or a couple of people that you want to fight before you wrap it up? And he will mention Shakur, Devin Haney, and Teofimo Lopez. So he always has the eye on the prize. It's just I don't think, kind of like Floyd Mayweather. He's not going to give us those fights when we ask for them. He's gonna wait and marinate those fights until Devin, until Shakur and Teofimo get bigger. Because one of the things that Floyd Mayweather feared, right, and I know Tank Davis fears, is having another black fighter steal their shine. You see, check this out. When Floyd Mayweather, when people would mention other fighters around him, oh nah. Easy work. He like work. And if you look at Canelo, he stole like bets against Canelo. He probably lost every single one of his fights when he bets against him, but he won like the Bivol one. So he shows like the receipts. But like everything about Canelo, he like his accomplishments, he always be like, nah, look what I did to him when I was 35. Like he always brings it up. You see what I'm saying? Any fighter that is shining, Floyd is right there to kind of steal a little bit of their spotlight. He did this when he was active, right? Not so much now as he's retired, but you can still hear those tones. Same thing with Tank Davis, right? He carries that jealousy, or when someone outdoes him, they're like, "Oh, Canelo is the face of boxing." Tank Davis always repeats in his fans, "Nah, I'm the new face of boxing." And then every time somebody has an amazing moment, right, like Naoya Inoue, somehow Tank's name starts to circulate around that fucking fighter, and Tank Davis associates his name like, knock him out, tell him to move up. Same thing with Bud Crawford. When Bud Crawford beat Errol Spence, you see Tank Davis come out and be like, "Man, if I land on his chin, he get knocked out." Floyd Mayweather used to do that. And Floyd Mayweather would never give those fighters those type of shines, right? He would always belittle guys like Keith Thurman, right? And then he'd be like, you got to fight this guy. Tank does the same things that Floyd does. So to answer your question, he will take those fights, but it's going to be all in due time when he wants to, when he's ready. And this is one of the things that I actually like about Tank is that he's cerebral, right? The way he goes about his approach of fighting as well, coupled with his opponent selection. You see, they're not in a rush to be great. They know it's only a matter of time before he constantly starts selling close to every single time a million pay-per-view buys. And it's something admirable. See, he sticks to the script, where I wish other fighters like Ryan Garcia would stick to the script. You see? But what happens when you don't stick to the script, you have Exhibit A, Ryan Garcia, versus fighters that you do stick to the script, Exhibit B, Tank Davis. For instance, had Ryan Garcia just waited and listened to Golden Boy and the formula, Mercito Hesta, Jojo Diaz, William Zepeda, then Tank Davis, he might beat Tank Davis. Look at what Tank Davis did. Had he done the same path of Ryan Garcia and he listened to the fans when Lomachenko was on his neck, and let's say Tank takes that Lomachenko fight, Loma beats him. Like Loma beat Gary Russell, a very good competitive fight, but Tank gets beat by Loma. Whereas now, he going around circumventing certain fighters, certain styles, sticking to the script, listening to his advisors that have been there before, right? This is wisdom. When you pay attention to your elders and you respect their decisions and they have the receipts to back it up, that's called respect that Tank Davis gives to his handlers, whereas Ryan didn't listen, which is the ultimate disrespect. And then Ryan goes about crying like a little bitch, saying like, he weren't in my corner. I want to buy out my contract. You see what I'm saying? He don't respect those people. He don't respect his people. He don't respect listening to his elders, whereas Tank did. And that's why I say it's admirable what Tank does. Because again, he is going to fight those fighters that I mentioned up here, right? He will fight Shakur Devin, maybe even Lomachenko. But what I'm saying is he's going to listen and stick to the script, whereas Ryan tried to accelerate his career and wouldn't deceleration that he's going to receive in the back end of it as well. So again, it's only a matter of time when Tank will fight these guys. It's just not going to give him. He's going to learn from Floyd. When people wanted him to fight Pacquiao, when Pacquiao wasn't on his prime and maybe on that juice, but he's going to wait. And that's just what it is. That's the formula. Just wait.
Yeah, so I don't think that's necessarily the case, the homie Ricky. He is never gonna fight Lomachenko. Um, I actually suspect that Lomachenko will be retiring pretty soon because there really is nothing out there that he needs to prove anymore. As far as he's concerned, in about 80-90% of all the population that witnessed this fight with Devin Haney, for the most part, he is the de facto, or should be the de facto undisputed lightweight champion, right? Now, a person
but
like
it won't be like that on the
we know that. That's why I'm saying de facto. For all intents and purposes, he should be, and he is, but not in paper, not in the scrolls of the boxing gods. That will never be the case. And now that Devin Haney is moving up to 140, we have to ponder the idea that he is gonna let go of all the belts. He's already let go of the WBC, so he's the champion in Reese's. The WBC is just holding it for him, and the Duke is that somehow, as he ages, he's gonna still come down to suck himself up and shed all that weight to fight at 135 again, which I highly doubt. We've already discussed why. But the WBC, WBA, IBF, and WBO, the same thing. They're all gonna eventually realize that he's gonna make a move at 140. Hopefully, it reaches Progra. Hopefully, he signs on that dotted line, and then we know that he's affirming a move at 140. Nonetheless, what I'm trying to get at is all those belts are gonna go vacant, and people are gonna fight for them. Lomachenko can fight for one of those belts. Uh, sh- it, um, Tank Davis is likely going to become a champion for one of those belts, a true 135-pound champion for one of those belts. Stevens, the other one, and the fourth one, who knows? Besides Lomachenko, who else might fight for it? But there's a lot of other competitors out there. Nonetheless, that would mean that Lomachenko is going to have a very hard route to fight for all those belts, including with men such as Tank Davis, who never crossed the street to other promotions to take on those fights. So it's once Lomachenko realizes this, he's not gonna pursue fighting anymore. So he's never gonna fight him. Now, Devin Haney, he will stay at 140. Especially if he is triumphant against the man from Louisiana, Regis Rugaru Progra, right? Because he would have made a move that would have cemented him as a true competitor and a champion at another weight class. So we would have to ponder the idea that a very short, stumpy, albeit very skilled Tank Davis would make a legitimate move to 140, where he's only fought one time before against a minor belt holder and Mario Barrios. Now, I don't see that ever happening. I do, in fact, think that Tank Davis will content himself at being at 135 forever and bringing down men from 140 and bringing up men from 130 to fight for his minor belt that he holds with the WBA, if I'm not mistaken. So I don't think I don't think we can ever see a world where he fights Teofimo Lopez, a true legitimate champion who just outclassed an former undisputed fighter, another de facto undisputed fighter, and Josh Taylor, a guy who obviously has knockout power and great reflexes, like Teofimo Lopez. He would never go up to 140 to fight a Matthias. Because that's ludicrous to think of that. But here's one thing I do like about Tank Davis, the homie Ricky, and just hear me out on this one. You and I, we always discuss the, for lack of better words, the chicanery, the tomfoolery, and the sanctioning bodies and what they consent, how they approve certain things, and how they allow some fighters to get away with a lot of things. In other words, it's a lot of uh, effery, right? Now, check this out. He is basically using a boxing maneuver to avoid those big sanctioning fees. He still holds on to one belt and he's able to move in the world of boxing without really paying those tributes to these sanctioning bodies. It's almost incredible because if we always talk about I'm just going to say, the fuckery of the sanctioning bodies and how corrupt they are, it's almost like he's saying, we know that, and I'm just going to do my thing without really needing you. And in fact, do you think Tank Davis needs to fight for any sanctioning body, knowing how hardcore his fan base is and how actually profitable his fights for minor belts are?
Yeah, well, look, he doesn't have to. You see what I'm saying? And that's really a good thing because he gets to dictate what he wants in his own career. He's his
Mm-hmm.
own boss. You can't tell him what to do. He doesn't need to associate with himself to be called the champion. People are gonna ride with him regardless. And when you have that type of following, when you have that type of admiration from your fans, bro, that's amazing to have because they're with you through thick and thin because they're not boxing fans, they're Tank Davis fans. So Tank Davis is the brand, and that's ultimately empowerment. You see what I'm saying? That's where every fighter wants to get. They want that cult status that Tank Davis has with his fan base. You see what I'm saying? Because most of the time, like you said, these sanctioning bodies in the sport of boxing and these corporations, they are dirty. So
Hmm.
when you are able to hold your whole percentage of the masters, own your own fights, own your own shoe brand, all that stuff,
Hmm.
that's ultimately what you want. So like I said, I'm a big fan of Tank and I like everything that he's going about. It's very admirable because again, guys like Teofimo Lopez, they have to go the hard route. You see, they have to fight the killers in the sport. They have to fight the low risk, low reward fighters like Sander Martin, like Josh Taylor, like Lomachenko. You see what I'm saying? And people are gonna, you know, he's still kind of like who's Teofimo's real fan base. You see what I'm saying? If there was ever an opportunity to see what his fan base was, he, they didn't support him. Look at the situation with Triller, right? They weren't selling any tickets. They were gonna have it on a Sunday, then they moved it to a Monday, then to a Wednesday, and then eventually Triller was like, "Damn, bro, no one's coming out. We lost essentially 5 million. We'll take the 1 million fee and just pay you guys just to step aside." You see what I'm saying? So again, fighters that have that credibility, like Teofimo Lopez, like Lomachenko, they need and they want what Tank has. You see, so Tank has that power. Now, here's to this point. Even though if Devin were to like going back what we were saying, if Tank Davis, if Devin Haney were to relinquish all those belts, if he were to relinquish all those belts, guess what? It doesn't hold the same weight if Tank were to be a champion amongst boxing purists, right? Amongst the people that actually have some principle rather than just following fighters like it's, fantasy boxing, right? Like a fantasy football, like fantasy boxing, where you only follow a certain fighter just to get knockouts and stuff. No, 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 no. You see, it doesn't hold the same weight. Like for instance, Regis Prograis is, he can walk around thinking that he's a champion, but it was still Josh Taylor. You see, Arnold Barboza versus Jose Ramirez can be fighting for one of the vacated belts, or Matias can walk around with the IBF. But see, Teofimo is that guy because he beat Josh Taylor. So even though all these corrupt ass sanctioning bodies stripped Josh Taylor or he had to relinquish them, right? The victory that Teo got over Josh holds so much value and weight. So for instance, no one beat Devin Haney at 135. So maybe Shakur can fight a Frank Martin and Edwin de los Santos. And those are very good, reputable fights. But it would have held much more weight had they sacrificed and taken the fight that Devin was offering them.
Yeah.
It would
So
much more weight. Now,
look,
to their
when it,
respective fan base, to Tank Davis fan base, they're not going to care
yeah,
about it. They're
yeah.
just
So
like,
the thing about
Tank is
the
a real champion.
Tank Davis, right? Yeah, Tank Davis. So look, when it comes to trying to make a career out of it, making it a profitable career, making violence, organized violence, a profitable career. Yeah, absolutely. Tank Davis has it in the bag, right? He's able to do what he wants, screw everybody who doesn't like it. His fan base will sponsor him blindly. He'll make that money. He'll take the softer fights, and he's loyal to those that support him. Right? His fan base really don't care um, who he fights, as long as he wins. Right? Uh, that we know that because I mean they were able to sponsor and pay for and fill up a theater when he decided to bring up Hector Luis Garcia from 130, who's a legitimate champion at 130, to fight at 135. who Hector Luis Garcia has never fought in, and it would have been just more legitimate and credible had Tank Davis just gone down in weight. We know he'd already done it a few fights prior because he did it with Leo Santa Cruz. He went down to 130
That
because
was
Leo
like
Santa
4 years
Cruz,
ago.
huh?
That was like 4 years ago, though.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. But what I'm saying is that's where he moves. You see, remember, uh, Tank Davis wanted to bring up to Leo Santa Cruz when Leo Santa Cruz was a champion at 130, uh, and Leo Santa Cruz was no. I want to fight and defend my belts. And he stood on his ground and on his principles, and he forced Tank Davis to come down to 130. So Tank Davis became the legitimate 130 belt holder when he beat Leo Santa Cruz and that rather rugged fight that he had. Leo Santa Cruz was having great success for the most part until he didn't. And he became a 130-pound champion with when he knocked out that Mexican. Now, instead of staying there at 130, because obviously you were competitive enough to be one of the more well-known names at that weight class, he decided to relinquish the belt and go back up to 135 to hold on to his baby belt. Now, if I'm a fan of Tank Davis, if I'm a fan in the traditional sense of Tank Davis, which is, hey, you fought a credible champion, you destroyed the guy, you're a real champion, you're awesome. I want to see you fight harder guys now. I want to see you fight everybody that comes across your path. And then instead of doing that, he decides to move up to retain his baby belt and fight other guys like Ryan Garcia and whoever else they put in front of his path. Then I'm just gonna be a bit disappointed and be like, "Yo, wait, why did he do that, bro? It doesn't make sense. That's not how the legends have moved. That's not how true champions move." And then I'd question, why am I even a fan of the guy? But Tank Davis fans really don't question themselves and they don't question the guy. They're fans of the man, not the sport, right? So what Tank Davis has done is he's done the right thing by realizing who his fan base are. And for the most part, I would say they're people that are gonna move a lot like Tank Davis, right? People that probably are a little thuggish. They like their tattoos. They're probably into hip hop, and they find him simpatico and gracious, and they feel they're kindred spirits with the guy, right? Now, that puts a dude like myself, a man like myself, at a divide, right? Because I'm not
I don't
black.
think so. I don't think that's only Tank Davis's fan base, bro. I think you got it completely wrong when it comes down to that. See, when I look at Tank Davis's fans, right? They don't have to be thugs, bro. You see what I'm saying? The people that are Tank Davis's fans,
Now, wait. Before you let you run off with that, I'm not saying that. I'm
that's
just
what you
saying
just said.
that if no, I didn't say that. I just said that likely his fan base is going to be composed of people similar to him and his and upbringing. That can mean a lot of different things. That can mean they don't have to be white or black or thuggish. Maybe, like I said, they could be into hip hop. They could be white and be into hip hop. They can be people that don't know anything besides the guy is just hanging out with rappers apparently, or Money Mayweather, and he's just writing coattails. It's a whole different type of variety of fan base. I'm not saying they're thugs. I'm just saying they could be thugs.
Yeah, but I'm gonna give you a different perspective. The fans that ride hard for Tank Davis are the people that want to make it out of the ghetto. So we're not just talking about thugs. We're talking about people that are poor. Because see, that's a rags to riches story of Tank Davis. You see what I'm saying? A guy who's from Baltimore, right? Stayed with the same people that he's been with and being successful. That's everybody's world. Everybody. I'm talking about doctors, people that are sophisticated. Everybody, don't care what. Everybody's a fan of Tank Davis. You see what I'm saying? And we're such big fans of him that we want him to fight these other fighters that we're not that big fans of. You see, Shakur Stevenson is a polarizing figure. So is Devin Haney. So is Teofimo Lopez. In fact, Tank is more loved than those three fighters that I mentioned. A lot of people don't like Devin Haney. Why? Because a lot of people like you think that Lomachenko de facto is undisputed. You see what I'm saying? Same thing. A lot of people respect Teofimo Lopez, but more people love Tank. More people like Tank over Shakur Stevenson, right? Those fighters that I just said are polarizing, right? Because they look at those guys like they kind of have it all. Whereas they don't look at Tank like a fighter that has it all, that he still makes mistakes while these guys are all polished. So I completely disagree with you on that end. Now
Well,
here's
that's wait. Did you say they don't? They find them. What was the word that you used? Um, they're uh,
they're every
the,
common folk.
no, no, no. You said about Teofimo Lopez and Devin Haney. They're divisive,
Polarizing.
polarizing. Okay, polarizing. Interesting. That's a very interesting word to use to describe Devin Haney and Teofimo Lopez and all these guys that are keeping their nose clean. Because I would think that polarizing would be somebody like Tank Davis, a guy who hits and runs when he's absolutely drunk, and he abandons the people that are inside of an SUV with a pregnant, being driven by a pregnant woman, and he abandons the scene of the crime. That I would think that's very polarizing.
But
But
we're
you know
not
what?
talking about
People
that.
forgive that.
We're
People
not
don't
talking,
mention that.
but we're not talking about that aspect of the boxing. I was
No, no,
I
no.
should have
See,
been
I'm talking about it
no, no,
because,
no.
see,
I
you're
should have
talking
been more
about how
specific.
these people want to make it. You
Wait,
see,
hold on,
didn't we
hold
just
on,
have an episode about a week ago about Andy Ruiz,
hold on.
about how he made it? And the first thing we did as people of Mexican lineage, we ended up chastising the guy because he made it and he decided to throw it all away. But
Wait,
yet, when
I'll
we
get to
see
that.
Tank Davis do, wait up, when we get Tank Davis to do that, we're supposed to praise him because he's simpatico and because he's supposedly representing the people that are trying to make it. Listen, how come they don't? How come his fans aren't as critical of Tank Davis once he messes up like we are?
No, no. So there is another aspect. So I was just telling you that these three fighters, Devin, Shakur, and Teofimo, they're polarizing because they people are seeing that they have it all figured out when it comes down to boxing, not everything outside of it. You know what I'm saying? So I should have been clear in that aspect. Tank is definitely much more polarizing outside of it, right? Because of the struggle that he goes through, whether it's his baby mama doing the whole on the toothbrush thing. Again, what you just said, the example, he's polarizing outside of it. That's why he don't really got those endorsements, right? That guys like Ryan Garcia and Devin Haney or these guys might have. I'm not too sure if many of them have endorsements. I know Ryan's got all the endorsements, but I think Teofimo probably got like a Monster Energy drink or something like that. I don't really remember. But the backing, right? Outside of the ring, sure, Tank has like if a regular person did what Tank has, right? Tank Davis has that privilege of that celebrity rich person. Because if a poor person, I'm a poor person, if I ran over a pregnant woman, I'm getting locked up, especially if they find me being a DUI. But the fact that Tank has that 40 million, the fact that Tank has all that money, you see what I'm saying? He's treated essentially like a white person would do back in the 80s with the mass incarceration situation. Oh, they did cocaine, we'll put them in rehab. Tank Davis is being treated like a white person back that how they were doing back in the other days. I don't know if you guys ever read like those Michelle Alexander books. I'm sure you guys are privy to it. White people did cocaine, the
Hey,
same amount of black people that would do crack, but one group of people get incarcerated, and then the other group, they get into rehab. Tank is essentially being treated like a white person, and when it comes down to that situation, because he's rich. So now there's no a situation where it's black versus white. Now it's rich versus poor, and the rich kind of now Tank that 1% get a little pat on the back and a little jail sentence. Where if it was you and me, a poor person, we would get fucking incarcerated for like at least 5 years plus. Or the same thing as Henry Ruggs when he, got into that car accident and he burned that woman when he was leaving off the crib, the strip club. You see what I'm saying?
yeah, so I think it's a cultural thing, the homie Ricky. We Hispanics, for the most part, are very critical of our own. And maybe I think, right, because I mean we just made, I'm telling you, we made an episode about how we as Andy Ruiz Jr. fans were very disillusioned and disenchanted when he decided to mess up all of his opportunities granted to him as an open door once he got the fight of a lifetime and the conclusion of a lifetime that favored him and changed his life for the better, because he was representing people similar to us who had an opportunity to make it. And what does he do? He goes over there and screws everything up, right? And
No,
look,
I don't think so.
because he hasn't done anything more. So what are you talking about?
I don't
He
know.
hasn't
No,
done
no.
anything.
When I
No,
was criticizing Andy Ruiz, I was only criticizing a moment of his life. And that moment was everything leading up to the rematch with Joshua, right? The fact that he wasn't training with Manny Robles. The fact that Manny Robles told him, bro, get your ass to the gym. We got to prep for a fight. The moment where it was at his highest moment and he excelled with the amazing, upset of the decade since Buster Douglas and Mike Tyson. Excuse me. I was criticizing Andy Ruiz on the moment building up to the rematch where it's like, bro, after you beat Joshua for the second time, then go party, then go do all these things. Don't do it when you just, you know what I'm saying, won the NFC championship. Bro, you still got the Super Bowl. Wait. Dig
look,
deeper.
it's this. Look,
For now,
he's not living the
now.
fighter's lifestyle. All right,
Hold
that's
on.
why he's where he's at now. Tank
But
Davis,
here's
for
the
whatever reason or another, he is living the fighter's lifestyle.
You said
Is
you said that we're criticizing because he hasn't done something afterwards. Nah, bro. He still beat King Kong Ortiz. He still has this very good momentum. But here's another situation when it comes down to Wilder. Bro, take the Wilder fight. You're asking for 30, 40 million. No, bro. Just wait if there's pay-per-view upside. Bank on that. Bank on the ability to
and
sell the fight.
and there
Don't
you go. That's
overprice it.
another one of the things that's messing him up. You see what I'm saying? It's the whole change in character that comes about because you're not prepared to be great. You see what I'm saying? He was not prepared to be great. That's why he changed as an individual. So look, without getting too deep into character assassination or character breakdown or otherwise, let's just stick to what the topic is at hand, which is Tank Davis and his ardent fan base. I could never be a fan of Tank Davis, not the way he moves. I could never be a fan of Andy Ruiz, especially if he starts moving the way he's been moving recently, changing who he is, changing his diet, and in fact, here's the thing: although I like to isolate the personal from the business and the professional, we do know that his personal life is changing the way that he is as a business and a professional in the sport. That's why he hasn't fought anybody, and he's just been known for dealing with his wife and familial issues more so than the fights that he's been wanting to take on. But long story short, let's go back to another thing, Mr. And this is another example of the things that I'm saying about culture, right? The hip hop culture, which is, I think, it's safe enough to say that Tank Davis is representative of, or a member of at least, uh, embraces Tank Davis so that they don't criticize him. Whatever. He's the equivalent of JC with boxing gloves. But
Hell no.
another, well, I don't know who is then, but
Not Jay-Z. Tank
it
B like
ain't.
more like the baby or some shit.
Look, whatever. I don't know nothing about hip hop.
Bro,
All
Jay-Z
right.
is equivalent to Oscar De La Hoya, who was a rapper. Oscar was a boxer. Then they made Rock Nation, and they made a fucking empire, and Golden Boy Promotions empire.
Look, what I'm saying. Look, I don't listen to rap, man. All I'm saying is that there are certain cultural things. Like, for example, this is another example of culture. Mr. Vince Vargas, for his second comment of the night, he wonders why he, and referring to Tank Davis, doesn't fight black fighters. Now, okay,
Oh, we talked
look,
about that.
wait. Well, I didn't hear that, but I did want to address. I did want to address it myself. So, for the most part, there are stereotypes in boxing, right? When we think about people as a race or a color or nationality, right? When we think of the Mexican fighter, we always think a come forward, aggressive uh, fighter, basic but come forward and aggressive, and they never quit. That's very common stereotype about the Mexican or Latino fighters, the Puerto Ricans included. Anybody that's Latino, and because of that, those cultural because there are cultural reasons for why they fight like that. That's the reason why most people get that impression, right? We get the term macho from the nation state of Mexico, and macho means to be manly. A man never runs away from threat, he runs towards it. So that's why the Mexican and the Latino, the Chicano, the Mexican American, the Puerto Rican, all of those fighters will always come forward to the aggression, to the attack. So when you come forward, you expose yourself to the type of attack. The more mobile, less confrontational fighters would take up, which now we address the black fighters, the more traditional stereotypes associated with the black fighter, which is that they're more mobile, more fleet of foot, that they move more backwards and lateral, and that they counterpunch or pot shot and then move out of the way, right? That's why we get fighters like Devin Haney and Shakur Stevens, who give up the impression that they're backwards fighting, pillow fisted fighters that never come forward and are aggressors, and thereby they are boring. Now, we do know that those are stereotypes. Now, hear me out. A Mexican American, a Mexican, a Dominican, a Puerto Rican fighter can fight the same way as blacks, black American fighters. Black American fighters can fight the same way as the Latino fighters. But because it's a cultural thing, because they associate with the different type of with similar people like themselves that have just been accustomed to training and educating fighters a certain way, that's why all of them tend to take up the same kind of fighting traits. Now, I'm saying all of this because of one thing, and I'm just gonna throw it out to you, the homie Ricky. Do you think that this is gonna be a controversial question? Do you think a lot of black fighters are working together to not fight themselves and to fight other races, creeds, or nationalities? Because you did mention, right? Tank Davis has been fighting Dominicans, Mexicans, other fighters that said blacks. Devin Haney, we think he's gonna fight Progra, who is black, but he's fought in a white Australian, a white Russian, a Venezuelan in Linares, a Mexican American in Jojo Diaz, but we really haven't seen them fight blacks. Do you think there is a conspiracy of black fighters uniting to not duck each other, but to avoid each other so that they could be perceived as the dominant boxing uh, creed? And the reason I'm asking you, I'm going to ask you this, is because you know this. Keyshawn Davis had been calling out Frank Martin for a while. They'd been going back and forth. They've been going back and forth. Keyshawn Davis started to ridicule Frank Martin when he fought that German Armenian guy who put up a very good fight until he ended up taking a knee at the last round, thereby giving Frank Martin the win by one, maybe 2 rounds, but a very close fight, right? Keyshawn Davis started ridiculizing, and Frank Martin started saying, "Well, dude, I'm gonna take you on." Now, this is what occurred. Derek James, the trainer of Frank Martin, said, "What's wrong with these guys? Why should they want to fight each other? I mean, I think it's all silly. Like, what do they get out of it? They're gonna fight each other for low money. One of them is gonna lose. It's not going to benefit Keyshawn Davis to take that loss with his promoter and Bob Arum. And what are they going to get out of it? There's no belts. And I'm thinking, listen, Derek James, since when do you care what happens to the career of the fighter that you defeat? Do you think about Terrence Crawford and his career when you decided to pit him against Errol Spence Jr., your fighter? Do you think about Anthony Joshua and his career when you want him to face off against Deontay Wilder? Says, what are they going to get out of it? One of them is going to lose. They're going to go back to the promoter, and their promoter's not going to give him any work anymore because they've lost. What do you care? This is the fighting sport.
Who said
Like, I don't
that?
understand. Derek James.
In
He
what
said it.
interview?
It was in a scene. The newsletter, the website. It was ridiculous. Derek James said that, and I couldn't believe what I was hearing. He absolutely said that he doesn't understand why those two fighters would want to fight each other, seeing how one of them would lose and they would go back to the promoters and their promoters would not want to contract them anymore for fights. Does that sound stupid to you or what?
No, it doesn't sound stupid. You know what I'm saying? It's logical to think that way, but that's a pussy ass way to think about shit.
Absolutely.
You see what I'm saying? Because it's logical. It does make sense, especially when everyone's trying to preserve their you got an I'm afraid to let it go, type of shit. But I'm saying, like, bro, you're not supposed, bro, this is a fucking warrior sport. You can't be thinking and talking like that, bro. Like, your goal is to knock out all the competition. So for the last man standing, you're crowned the king. This is a sport about domination and war and conquering, not about fucking, I gotta do this and circumvent certain actions until we're big enough. Bro, your fighter sucks. Frank Martin. Anyway, bro, what
Listen, it is boxing scene. So Derek James, this is the title on boxingscene.com. Derek James shoots down Frank Martin versus Keyshawn Davis fight. And this is the direct quote. What's the point of that fight?
Hey, just a heads up, you're gonna go solo for a bit, and then I'll try to log on through my phone.
Okay, so let me pose the question, right? I'm just gonna read this brief missive by Hans Themis Toad, who published this article in Boxing Scene on May the 12th, 2023. And it reads, despite being in the genesis of his career, Keyshawn Davis isn't exactly interested in taking the slow and meticulous route up the light. Despite having only a handful of bouts underneath his belt, the former Olympic silver medalist has continued to call out a bevy of top tier names, in particular, Frank Martin. And he goes on to write that with the two jawing back and forth in the public eye, Derek James, Martin's trainer, becomes incredulous whenever he hears more of Davis's outlandish callouts. Although he wholeheartedly respects Davis, who is 8-0 with 6 KOs, and what he brings to the table, the newly crowned Trainer of the Year is convinced that the end result of their clash would be detrimental to the 24-year-old's career. What's the point of that fight? Questioned James during a recent interview with ES News. Even for him, what would Top Rank do to that when they're trying to build him up? Say he loses the fight. He's done. They don't want to deal with him anymore. They're going to let him go. They're going to cut him because he did something that they're going to cut him. They're going to let him go. They're going to cut him because they did something that you wanted. I don't even think that makes any sense the way he said that. In addition to James believing that a showdown between both Martin and Davis is a bit undercooked at the moment, Martin, 17-0, 12 KOs, appears to be on his way to fighting for a world title. Ostensibly, Martin's inclusion amongst the lightweight division's best was solidified following Banner 2022. With 2 victories already in his back pocket, Martin closed his year strongly by taking care of business against Michel Rivera. Now, with his name buzzing, Martin is hoping to secure a world title bout at some point this year. Now, for those that don't know what I'm talking about, Frank Martin had beaten this fighter who was making the rounds because he looks a lot like a young Muhammad Ali, a Dominican, if I'm not mistaken, by the name of Michel Rivera. Very he was very skillful, very tough. He was coming up quite good, and he had a very good victory right before he fought Frank Martin. Michel Rivera did, and then they ended up the PBC ended up putting up Michel Rivera against Frank Martin, who's one of Errol Spence's fighters. He put him up against him because he figured he was ready for that kind of scrap, right? He had Michel Rivera was coming up beating Jerry Perez, who was a 14-1 fighter, Joseph Adorno, who was undefeated at the moment with 14-0 in the two draws, and a couple of other fighters that had only one loss in their belt, like Matias Romero, John Fernandez 21-1, and Jose Matias Romero had 24-1. So he was taking up a couple of fighters that had only one loss, and they were, he was fighting scrappily and being dominant. And then they put him up against Frank Martin, and Frank Martin embarrasses uh, Michel Rivera. And then after the fight, it is declared that Michel Rivera was on some kind of performance enhancing drugs. To his humiliation, he was taking drugs and he ended up being destroyed even while under the effects of some kind of performance enhancement products. Now, that just goes to show that pets are not there to make you a better fighter. They just maybe prepare you to cut weight or to gain muscle or recover, but they're not going to make you a better fighter. So Frank Martin went over there and just stopped this guy. He made him look like he'd never fought in the southpaw before. Now, Keyshawn Davis went on to see Frank Martin fight this guy that's living in Germany right now. But he's really he's I think he's Armenian or uh, not Ukrainian, but he's yeah, he is Armenian. He is from Yerevan, Armenia, now currently residing in Hamburg, Germany. And he was a very good orthodox fighter, doing very good work against the southpaw Frank Martin until his corner started screaming at Frank Martin and told him something to the effect that you're losing this fight. And then Frank Martin just put up his dukes, walked forward, and a peekaboo shell and just started hurting the German Armenian. Now, Keyshawn Davis, one of Bo McIntyre's fighters, who includes Terrence Crawford and Shakur Stevens as his fighters. He started clowning Frank Martin for having looked mediocre against this German, who obviously nobody had heard of. Unless, of course, you follow Olympic sports and you're from a foreign country. He was otherwise a very skillful fighter. But us Americans, we really never pay attention to fighters from abroad, right? Because we think made in America, you fight in America, this is Mecca to boxing. If you're here, you're good. And if you're not, you're probably some kind of a Euro bum or otherwise. Very ignorant type of ideations that us Americans have over here regarding foreign fighters. But nonetheless, Keyshawn Davis started making fun of this guy. And Frank Martin started to respond. They started going back and forth. They were talking about taking up a fight and how one guy would beat up on the other. And then Martin's trainer, Derek James, got in the mix and he started opening up his mouth and saying, why should these guys fight each other? One of them is going to lose and their career is going to suffer a hit. That's some P word talk. We're here for fighting. We're here to take on fights, especially when they're undefeated. If somebody calls you out, you take that fight because they're basically calling you a punk, right? And if there's hype behind both fighters, because Keyshawn, he does have some hype behind him, right? I mean, he's got Top Rank trying to build him up. Every single one of his past fights has been on broadcast television. That's a fighter that's being built up well and promoted well. And Frank Martin has not had the same type of outings or the same kind of promotion as Keyshawn Davis has while he's been at the PBC. But when somebody calls you out that can promise you money and they have a career of 7-0 and you have one of 17-0, you should take on that fighter at that moment because they have less experience than you do. So if you allow them to get better, these young cats are going to take you on and they're going to destroy you. Um, but I guess Derek James is starting to talk like a duck and teach his fighters to walk away from the action. So now we have Frank Martin walking away from another fight with Shakur Stevens. So it's just a very embarrassing thing for Derek James to have admitted in an interview, and a very embarrassing thing for how Frank Martin has decided to walk away from a hefty purse and a chance at a belt with a WBC. And who knows what his career will be and who he'll fight next. But I can tell you this, like most people say, if it ain't Tank Davis on a pay-per-view fight, then you just basically uh, took on a fight with less exposure, likely promising you less money, and you might lose. So yeah, it's all bad all around. But nonetheless, guys, hey, this is what happens. These are the type of moves that some of these fighters take nowadays. Not necessarily because they're afraid of the work. It's just that they're
No,
being.
that's exactly what that is.
I
Derek
think they're
James,
being.
that's a businessman decision. You see what I'm saying? That's a business minded decision, and that was cowardice, bro. I
Yeah.
think
I
Derek
well,
James
here's
was
the
shell
thing.
shocked, and he was like,
Look,
"Man, bro, I can't have one of my fighters get his ass beat like Errol Spence, especially with Shakur. He probably want to take another
look,
L,
the
go back
Midwest.
to the company. That's embarrassing, bro. That's embarrassing.
Yeah,
Because
but
again,
I think the
here's the what's this?
cowardice
Check
is
this
on
out.
the side of I think the cowardice is on the side of the handlers, but not necessarily the fighters. Like Frank Martin,
Nah,
I
nah,
mean,
nah,
I think it speaks volumes. I think it speaks volumes that all he said is "I ain't duck." Shh. It's all he
nah.
said.
It's one of the again. That's the top of the helm, right? Derek James is your overseer, so he's a representative of Frank Martin. And if he's saying that in interviews, so he's the mouthpiece for Frank Martin. He's speaking for Frank. You see what I'm saying? And yeah, that was cowardice, bro. Also, you got to look at it like this. Okay, sure, maybe Frank Martin gets beat by Shakur, but what if you beat Shakur? You get all that glory, all that reward. So there's also risk versus reward. You got plus plus. In fact, Shakur is in a lose-lose situation because you're unknown, right? And here's another aspect to it, right? You said or they stated that, oh well, if you take a loss early in your career, promotional companies tend to, not promote you, or
Cut you.
they don't re-sign your
Yeah.
contract. Well, isn't your promoter Errol Spence Jr.? Aren't you signed to Man Down Promotions? So is Errol going to cut you, Frank Martin? Absolutely fucking not. So all that shit is bullshit business talk from Derek James, and that's a cowardice move, bro. That was ridiculous.
Yeah. That's
If that's
but
true,
the reason
I
I
wish I was on my
attribute.
computer so I can screen share that video or that boxing scene article. But that's embarrassing, bro.
Yeah,
Wow.
I'll send it to you. But again, Frank Martin was calling out and responding to Keyshawn Davis. It's only when Derek James decided to meddlesome and their affairs become meddlesome in their affairs and utter those words to cut that line of dialogue. That's when it seemed very, very unfitting of Derek James, but not necessarily Frank Martin, because Frank Martin was asking for it. He was
Hold
talking
on,
back
hold on. What is
about it.
that for the Keyshawn Davis fight, or is that for the Shakur Stevenson fight?
No, no, no. That's for Keyshawn Davis. This was after the victory of Frank Martin, where Keyshawn Davis was basically,
Never mind, bro.
making fun.
Then I take back everything what I said. I thought he said that recently for the Shakur
No, no,
Stevenson
no. But
fight.
still, though, no, no, no. But still, this is actually something that we have to consider for
No,
why
no,
it is that Frank
that's
Martin did not decide to take this fight. What if Derek James counseled him not to take the Shakur Stevens fight at this juncture?
maybe. Hey, but I'm gonna let you know you're gonna have to hold it down again because I gotta run some errands at night, bro. So
And how long am I gonna hold it up? Come, oh,
I mean,
goodness. All right.
I gotta go to the bank. I gotta go do a lot of stuff. So yeah.
Okay, so I'll do this, guys. I'm just gonna read you guys today's news, and that's it. I'll be crashing out soon enough, but let me just read a couple of articles of today's news. All right, see if you guys find anything interesting. Um, okay, so let's go to. I always just randomly Google boxing news, right? Okay. This is one of the headlines under boxingnews24.com, who are very jaded, very opinionated, almost always in the wrong, very strong opinions, but they're not the most professional venue. But this is what one of the titles of their report is, which is Derek James is not worried about Canelo Alvarez's size advantage over Jermell. Okay. Apparently, the trainer for Jermell Charlo is not worried about Canelo Alvarez's size. Okay, that's great. Let's see why. Trainer Derek James says Jermell Charlo's lack of size won't disadvantage him against the heavier undisputed super middleweight champion Canelo Alvarez this month, and he doesn't need to bulk up. Wow, that's a very interesting statement. He doesn't need to bulk up. And that's a I agree with that. I agree with that. So we know that Jermell Charlo, who is fighter, who's undisputed fighter at 154, is gonna go up two weight classes to 168 to fight another undisputed fighter there, and Saul Santos Alvarez Berrigan, double SAB, right? Jermell Diavante Charlo is 33 years old, who's just naturally bigger, right? Just not professionally bigger, but just naturally bigger when it comes to height, range, uh, and all those kind of physical attributes. But yet we know that the bulkier, stronger fighter is Canelo Alvarez. Nonetheless, Iron Man Charlo is going to go up to 168 to fight a heavier man and more experienced fighter in Canelo Alvarez. Now, it's a great jump up in division. And I completely disagree with this fight, right? I like it when fighters go up in weight gradually because then there is no excuses, right? Like, for example, if Iron Man loses to Canelo Alvarez, there's an excuse already set in, which is that he's the naturally smaller fighter that's never fought in the weight class, not even in 60. And apparently, we're supposed to just expect him to go up two weight classes to be one of the best fighters in the world at the moment. Sounds ridiculous. But whatever, we also do have to credit his valor for being able to step up to weight classes to fight a much powerful, more experienced, and more accomplished man in the Mexican Alvarez. Okay, yeah, all for money though. But one interview that Iron Man Charlo had most recently, he talked about how it was very hard for him to go up in weight because he needed to eat more. And as he was working out, he was burning all the food that he was eating. So he wasn't able to blow up in weight as well as he wanted to, right? Um, Alexander Usyk, the Ukrainian, similarly said the same thing when he went from cruiserweight to heavyweight. He said that he had to eat all kinds of food, 6 meals a day, and it was hard for him to gain weight because every time he exercised and sparred and trained, he would naturally start shedding all that weight off because of how rigorous his training was. Nonetheless, one mistaken one mistake in these fighters is to think that to go up in weight you must just eat all kinds, and that's not necessarily true. If Jermel Charlo believes that his skill set transcends well, he could teeter closer to, let's say, 160, 161, 162, and retain the speed without necessarily trying to blow himself up with carbs and protein and things of that sort to just make himself heavier. He can just go up in weight, maybe perhaps spar, but not as much. Work on technique instead of necessarily cutting weight, because you don't have to worry about cutting weight. You can just work on technique and form and combinations and review video and try to set up certain combinations or certain punches under some of the flaws that you may see in the Mexican. So you don't have to focus too much on making weight. You can just try to focus on how to prepare for the fight. So I think he's on the right path. Derek, Ironman Charlo's trainer, when he says he doesn't need to bulk up. I think that's absolutely right. He doesn't need to go from 154 to 168 and wait. He could just stay closer to 160 so that he can also get prepared for his natural, uh, you know, transition into 160 weight class should he win or even lose, especially to the Mexican. So I think that's a very good idea that that Texan trainer mentioned that. So I think that's a very good thing. I don't know if I want to necessarily go and delve too much into this report, but I think that's a very good way of looking at it. He doesn't need to blow up in weight. He just has to go up in weight enough where he can carry a few more pounds of punching power, but not necessarily to make him sluggish or much bigger, because whether he wins or loses, he may want to come back down uh, and wait to fight at 160, or maybe who knows? Maybe he still wants to fight 154 against somebody like Jermel Charlo or any of the other fighters that are up there at 154 making some noise. You see, but let's see what this trainer says. He says, should Jermel be putting on weight? And he responds, just because you're moving up to weight divisions, it doesn't mean you have to gain all that weight. I think that his advantages is his size, and I think you have to maximize what you have, said Derek James during today's Houston media workout, talking about Jermel Charlo. We see smaller guys sparring bigger guys every day of the week. I have something that you don't have. So he doesn't have to become that guy to beat the guy, said James about Jermel not needing to put on a lot of size for him to beat Canelo. Yeah, so he's talking about skills, beating Canelo, not necessarily a weight uh, beating Canelo. And I think that's absolutely a good way of looking at that. So let's see what other news for the day there are, right? That's one of them. Not too bad. Jermel Charlo putting in the hard work for Canelo fight. Um, I sure hope so, because that fight's about maybe 3 weeks away, and he's gonna have to put in that work. The last week is probably gonna have to take it very easy and just to recover. He doesn't want to try too many things out the last week because you might subject yourself to some kind of an injury. Um, Jermel Charlo has a puncher's chance against Canelo Alvarez, says Gary Antoine Russell. Everybody does. Everybody does. Regis Prograis equals massive trouble for Devin Haney. Now, guys, I must confess, right, that at this moment in time, I think Devin Haney is coming into himself as a fighter. He's learning a lot about who he is, what his potential is, and
Whoa. Listen, man.
man, go
If
to
you
the
got
bank and
everything to
get your
say,
money and leave me the alone.
if you said everything that you needed to say about Tank, bro, just be like, hey, have a good night, guys. You don't
No,
gotta
I'm
spell out
reading
the
the
whole
news. I,
spiel.
I
What's wrong with
wasn't
you,
here to
man?
talk about Tank. I told you I'm not even a fan of the guy. I'm gonna cook until 10:30. You look, you
Let me
go get
ask
your
you
money.
something.
Leave me the hell alone.
Let me ask you something. let me let me ask you something. If Tank were to fight Lomachenko, who wins that fight?
Loma,
Why?
because Loma does everything better than Tank Davis. He throws more punches.
Except knocking
He
you
knows how
out.
to move back.
Except
He knows how
knocking
to
you
stay
out.
in the pocket. He knows how to stay in the pocket, but he doesn't need to. He breaks you down. He's always been the smaller fighter, so he doesn't need to knock out the bigger guy. That's
No. Lomachenko has, in his whole career, he's been insecure. He's
insecure.
always insecure.
And
He's
Devin
always insecure about the
and
bigger guy. No. When he
and
met
Tank Davis
Mikey
isn't
Garcia,
insecure when he's
damn,
taking on the
Mikey.
softer fighters. What is wrong with you?
Well, we'll get to this. We'll get to this. I'm talking about Lomachenko right now. When
No. Why
Lomachenko
are we
was going
talking
to
about my
fight,
favorite fighter, bro?
whoa. Let me tell you this. Lomachenko, when Mikey called him out, they met at a green screen studio or something, and they were like, "Man, you're big. You're like heavyweight." You see, he said the same thing against Devin Haney. Man, you're so big. I'm a small little guy. And then he was basically insecure against Teofimo Lopez for like 7 rounds. So what I'm saying is, Tank is the little guy, quote unquote. At least he's shorter than Loma, but he's afraid and he respects power, bro. And that's one thing you said. Oh, Lomachenko does everything better than Tank except knock you out.
And going on with the news, right? So listen, this one I think is very interesting. Regis Progr, massive
Tank the
equals
best fighter in
massive.
the world.
Regis Progr equals massive trouble for Devin Haney. And now,
Oh
homie
my
Ricky,
god.
we've talked about this, right? We say
We talked
that,
about it yesterday. We gotta
yeah,
talk about it
exactly.
today.
Now, are we discrediting Regis Progr when we say that he has maybe a 25% chance at this moment in his life to beat Devin Haney? Are we giving too much credit?
25%. Whoa.
I think that's about what I have him at.
Who?
Okay,
That's
maybe
what you have him
30%.
at. Oh, you're completely wrong. I got him 45% of beating Devin Haney.
Oh, okay, 30, 45, give or take 15%. I mean, that's not a deal breaker.
This is almost a 50-50. This is a 50-50 fight, bro. What are
Let
we
me,
talking
yeah,
about here?
yeah, it's actually, well,
Like for
yeah, it
instance,
is a 50-50 fight. Yeah, it is a
Sir
50-50
Regis
fight.
looked mediocre at cutting off
Let
the
me ask you
ring
something. Let me ask you
versus
something. You're a betting
Soria.
man. You're a betting man. If you have $1,000, who are you putting it on? Be honest.
I gotta see what the betting odds are.
No, let's just say where they're at right now. You don't know the odds. You're not thinking about money. You're just thinking about I put my money and I'm absolutely sure this guy's gonna win. Who do you have? Regis Progr or Devin Haney? I'm putting my money in
Well,
Haney.
since I'm putting my money on Haney because of 2 reasons. One, he's fighting in San Francisco, which is basically his hometown of Oakland. They're just a Bay Bridge across, right? So that's one. So that lets me know all the politics, home field advantage, everything is going to be favoring Devin Haney. And here's another
Wait,
thing.
wait, wait.
What
That's
I
not
saw,
necessarily true. Wait up. That's not necessarily
well,
true because the guy who's promoting
that's
the
exactly true.
Regis Progr is Eddie Hearn, and he has another fight after this one with Regis Progr. So why are you
Let me
thinking
ask you
that
this.
he's
Why
gonna
do you
do the
think,
top ranked thing and favor Devin Haney over his fighter just
listen,
because it takes place in
whether
the
he,
Golden State?
listen,
Crazy,
now,
bro.
that's
Crazy.
one.
Okay, let's move
Well,
on. Let's move on.
listen.
You
Hold on,
want to
hold on.
laugh? You want to laugh about
Let-
something?
Check this out.
I
Hold
want to
on.
make you laugh
One is
though.
because, check this out. One is because it's the Golden State, which is California, which is Devin Haney's home. Let alone it's in San Francisco. Let alone it's a co-promotion, right? With Bill Haney and Eddie Hearn. And guess what? Bill Haney and Devin Haney were the ones that are looking for a specific fight day at a specific venue. Regis was getting impatient. He was like, hey, bro, you ain't going to put some slick shit on me. So that lets me know everything is favoring Devin Haney in that situation. What's not favoring Devin Haney is that this is his first fight at 140, and it's his first fight at 140 against a reputable champion
that can knock you out in Riga's pro grade. Now, while he
And
didn't look good in his last fight with a guy who has good legs that can jab and keep it and de-escalate a whole situation in a fight, and we saw the limitations of Rigas not being able to cut off the ring and establish his jab. All that stuff from a strategy and a game plan favors Devin Haney. So that's
look,
why I
man, you
favor
think
Devin Haney
you
because he
think
got those
you
two
think just
aspects.
because the fight is
So
taking
that's where
place
I'm
in the
gonna put my
Golden State,
$1,000.
you think just because the fight is taking place in the Golden State that's gonna favor Devin Haney, even though the guy who's putting up the money is Matchroom, the company that's putting up the broadcasting rights is the Zone, and they have a 3-fight deal with Regis Prograis. Why would they want to relinquish a belt to Devin Haney for their own fighter when they have another fight? If this was
Also,
their last fight,
also
if this
look
was
at it
their
like
last fight on
this,
that 3-year
because
contract, then I would say I would agree with you. But I don't think it has anything to do with the Golden State. I think the Golden State was
check
so
this
much
out.
better than Louisiana.
No, no, let me tell you this. Not only does Devin Haney is younger, he's probably the biggest name that the Zone has right now is Devin Haney. And
They
as
don't
a
have Devin
young,
Haney.
so when it comes down to, well, they have Devin Haney for right now for this fight.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
what I'm
yeah.
saying is, if they're able to continue to operate with good faith with Devin Haney, guess what? Maybe they get him for
Look,
another fight. Maybe they
I
do
would say
other
this.
situations.
I would
And
say this. If this fight takes place and they
yeah,
have
dude,
a 2-fight agreement,
you
which is
earn, you
standard,
learn.
yeah, if they have a 2-fight deal with Devin Haney, then guess what? Regis Progress in trouble. Yeah, there's going to be some home cooking, likely some home
You said
cooking
something
if
about a
that takes
three-fight
place.
deal.
Even better,
Isn't this the
even
second
better.
fight for Rigas, not the
Yeah,
third?
this is his second fight. He
So,
fought
so hold
Danielito
on. Didn't you
Zorrilla.
say he had a three-fight deal? But isn't this the
Yeah,
second fight?
yes, Danielito Zorrilla and then Devin Haney.
Yeah.
That's
All
what I'm
right.
saying.
So what were you gonna say that's gonna make me laugh?
Oh, here we go. You're not going to believe this though. Okay, by Jake Tiernan. Tyson, I can't even say it, man. Tyson Fury versus Francis Ngannou has a rematch clause, man. It has a rematch clause. How
But like
many
a
times?
rematch
How
clause
many times?
if Tyson Fury loses.
I don't know. I mean, what for? Like, what are you talking about? Like, whether he wins or loses, who cares? It's not like his belt's on the line. This is not a. I don't think this is a sanctioned fight. I don't think. I don't think Tyson Fury's belt is on the line. I think this is a a fight of frivolity. I don't think this his belt's on the line. So why is there a rematch clause? Like so ridiculous. Like what can we expect, right? Like Francis Ngannou knocks out Tyson Fury, and then he becomes the WBC champion at heavyweight. What is wrong with these guys? Like I just found that to be hilarious. It says, although Fury said last week there isn't a rematch clause, apparently there is, and it's understandable. Fury, 33 0-1, 24 KOs, is in his mid 30s, mildly obese, hasn't fought in almost a year, and he's facing a monstrous puncher. It's alarming how fat Fury has gotten in the last 10 months, and it shows that he's been eating high on the hog and enjoying a $65 million fortune. It goes on to make fun of Fury about how mentally he's not there. He's avoiding Usyk and Anthony Joshua. He must not have the equivalent of a neutron star dying out in this way, blah, blah, blah. And Ngannou does have a background in boxing, but two stars are colliding, and Ngannou is 37 years old. Fury is 35. Wow. And apparently Fury already has plans to retire from boxing, likely in year 2024, to start his career. And guess what? What do you think he would naturally do after boxing?
WWE.
You got it. WWE. He wants to be a WWE wrestler. I actually think that's
Yeah,
a splendid
yeah.
idea.
He can be like the next great Khali.
Yeah, I agree. He'd be hell of a he'd be a hell of a wrestler. Well, I'm not too sure if he a great wrestler, but yeah, the next great Khalil, I believe that could be his move. Wow, I can't even believe that. Why would there be a rematch clause? Like it's just like a big fu to uh to Anthony Joshua, to Alexander Usyk, and to the boxing world at large. I just thought it was hilarious. He would have a rematch clause for Francis Ngannou, who's never boxed a day in his life, and he's nearing 40. It's this is the state of boxing, everybody. This is what our sport. Uh, it's been like this. It's been like this. Why are we surprised? You know what I mean? Anyways, I just wanted to get that last thing in there. I thought that was funny. Um, but who
Nah,
knows? You know
I
what I
don't think
mean?
it's funny at all, man.
Well, I mean, we
Yeah,
can
man. I
cry
feel, bro.
about it, or we can laugh about it.
Or we can end it.
Yeah, we can end it. Yeah, everybody who was able to listen to us tonight. Well, thank you very much again for allowing us some of your valuable time, allowing us into your life to discuss all things organized violence, and the good and the bad about the sport of boxing. I hope we've been respectful and considerate of your time, and we've enlightened you, and maybe even made you laugh along the way. Maybe, just maybe, you saw what an idiot I am. But nonetheless, the homie Ricky, thank you very much for the invite. Always a pleasure, Mr. Vince Vargas. Always a pleasure to have you over here and into our chat room. Um, and yeah, we hope to bring something of enlightenment and entertainment next episode, which I sure hope is soon enough. But that's up to the homie Ricky, because he is the interlocutor and the handler of this year podcast. Homie Ricky, you have a wonderful day yourself, and Mr. Vince Vargas closes out the night by saying, "Good night, gentlemen. Always learning." Homie Ricky,
Good night.
sweet dreams, bud.
Good night, brother.